So today we are having a very wider topic that is cultural studies, and I am going to make my presentation on this structuralism and post-structuralism. Uh, So first, Pramod K. Nair has noted in his book that is Structuralism in Cultural Studies asks us to look at the rules that govern meaning formation through a system of differences and relations between signs and their contexts. So we know that how the structuralism is putting the point on the speaking rather than writing. And I would like to put here the once Derridian thought for the traditional statement of language that in one of the interview he was telling that uh, when I go to the traditional language, I find that traditional language is in itself lying in itself. And then he is telling that a written language is a deadly part for me. So, what structuralism does? How human behavior is determined by cultural, social, and psychological structures. A single unified approach to human life that would embrace all disciplines. Structuralism get existed into the 19th century when the psychological field was on the stage of growing up, and structuralism is a theory which is studying by the various kind of fields, that is cultural, social, and psychological. Mainly it is depend on the cognitive psychological meanings of the text or of the work of any kind of fields. Who are the literary figures in the structuralism? uh, Mainly structuralism is going with the main figure, that is Ferdinand Saussure, and there are so many names we have to mention when we go to the structuralism.
That is disconnected. So reconnect and yes, it is connected now. Then you have to share the screen.
So, who are the literary figures in structuralism? Structuralism is a theory which was born by the Ferdinand Saussure, but there are so many literary figures who have contributed to this theory. That is Roland Barthes, Jacques Derrida, Jacques Lacan, Sigmund Freud, who is very big name in the field of psychology, Michael Foucault, and Louis Althusser. This is the reference from the research work of Membrol, and he is claiming that Jacques Derrida explored the possibilities of applied to literature, that we have seen that in the very beginning of my presentation I have quoted his point of view in that. And Jacques Lacan studied psychology in the light of structuralism. Black and structuralism to create his own brand, his brand of social analysis. So from this we can come to know that every social, cultural, psychological, every field is adopted has adopted the theory of structuralism. Structuralism is fundamentally depend on three functions, that is arbitrariness, rational, and systematic. Four major theories in the field of structuralism. First is two terms that have become common currency. common currency in the linguistics, that is parole and lang. Parole is something which is concrete, physical, we can say, or the speech of the individual person, the person who is and the lang is the system underlying the speech activity. How to speak, that is the process of lang, and which is very abstract. We can feel, but we cannot have a proper physical understanding of that process. Second is signifier and signified process, that is given by Derrida, and he is going with this idea like signifier and signified make it possible together to understand the object, that is sign. Signifier is the physical existence, sound, word, image. When we heard such kind of word, that tree, so we can imagine in our mind tree. And signified is just like that, signified is just like that, our what is our mental come to know that particular object. Arbitrary relationship between signifier and signified. From this field we can come to know that there is no particular kind of signified, because signified is something every individual can feel that. Binary relationship between words, we know that binary oppositions are working very well when we go through this process. That is opposition, something we heard like black, we can come in our mind first come white, so that is the contradiction, binary opposition. So when we go to the take two arguments, that first is work and text. In the old time, uh, in literature, the poem or literary work come as a work, not the text, and then the structuralism came with the particular kind of text. And now for example we can take metaphysical poetry. So in olden time it was work, but now it is text. So it as well as it become a text to the audience, it is make us open to study conflict of meaning by the changing time. According to Membrol, Rolla Barthes, who claimed the term for a while, who was a literary critic and wrote about the death of the author. Now, in a new criticism, we all know that there is no path of the studying any kind of text with the author or the reference of author. He argued the author could not claim to know that what his or her book was about any more than the reader. Again, the idea that there was a hidden reality, hidden to the reader but known to the author. The author is knowing, but the reader is not knowing, was challenged, and instead a view of the text presented which was available to all equally. And the second argument is that unconscious is the structuralism. That is, I have put the point of view of the John Mann from his research work, that he is claimed that Jacques Lacan, a psychoanalyst who claimed that the unconscious is structured like a language, is widely seen as a major structuralist thinker. He claimed to be returning to Freud. We know that Freud has given the theory of id, ego, and superego, and which is working on the conscious and unconscious mind. So, it, the Lacan is going to the very late figure of psychology field, that is Freud, and he has citing the Freud even here, and be working against the Americanization of psychology, psychoanalysis with its emphasis on ego psychology. He emphasized the role of the unconscious by showing that the I is not a means individual one, is not a centralized core ego, but a depressed, dispersed, fragmented, and interrelated unknown, that unknown unconsciousness. Now we know that we have, if we want to go to the center, we have to make first marginalized ways, but there is no such thing like a center. It is like fragmented parts in itself. So our unconscious is also like that. We don't know that what is going on in our unconsciousness. Now we are going to the post structuralism. In 19th century, we if we see to the every theory that like colonialism, then after that come to the post colonialism. Same way structuralism came, and to the that in that field, to the more opposition way, the post structuralism theory came into the existence. Post structuralism is a literary movement, and post structuralism is a theory. There is a very interesting way of writing post structuralism that I have noted, that if you are writing with a hyphen between post and structuralism, then you are talking about a literary movement which has happened in the history. And if you are talking without hyphen, that is post structuralism, that will be as a theory. You are mentioning the features and various aspects of that. Post structuralism was reaction against structuralism movement, as I said, and they tried to break all the aspects of structuralism. That is like first the post structuralism came. The Derrida has came into existence with his personal uh, theory, that is deconstruction. Meaning is not constant; it is constantly changing. So
Connected. There's lots of instability in the internet today. Hmm? It's extremely distressing.
now screen is visible. Yes.
Yes, you can continue.
Okay. So for that, post structuralism and meaning is not constant, and it is constantly changing. So we now know that structuralism was talking about only the meaning, and there is a very interesting point of view Pramod K. Nair has noted in his book, that is example, a cape of worn on the head as opposed to the shoe which is worn on the foot. Cotton clothing in worn in summer as opposed to the woolens which are worn in winter. Notice here that the binaries are between items of clothing and between seasons and cultural context. That is clearly a structure at work. So one have to be one has to take a reference. If we take a reference by the processing of understanding or getting meaning to the one word, that is if we see that a cape is one on the head, so the idea automatically come by the way of binaries, that is the opposite of a shoe. We cannot cape wear in the foot. So in by that example we can come to know that how structuralism was going to the um, meaning that is constant, but post structuralism came into the way, and it has broken the idea, and it is going with the constantly changing meaning. By Derridian thought of difference, language is not a transparent medium that connects one directly with the truth or reality outside it, but rather a structure or chord whose parts derive their meaning from their contrast with one another and not from any connection with the outside world. What are the major claims of post structuralism? They are claiming four major claims. That one is first is identity and meaning are based on difference. Uh, if we if we go to the example that was previous one was about the cotton cloth, so we have to take another meaning of we have to have the meaning, another meaning or sense of the seasons, and by that we can come to know the original meaning of the that original word. Identity and meaning are never stable or unified. As we have seen in my previous slide, identity and meaning always depend on some other term or concept which is need present in this term. Fourth is there is no final meaning, because each time you arrive at a set of key terms or meanings, you discover that you need to move on to more words. As we have discussed that we have to go to the other words, more words, to get meaning of that given word. Let's have a look to the activity that is noted in the Pramod Nayar's books, that is think of defining the inside of your house, of delimiting the boundaries of the house. Can you define it without referring to the outside world, the roadside, and or the next house? Can you draw the boundaries of your house without also marking the boundaries of that is not inside in your territory? And now ask, how are we distinguish between inside and outside? Are we inside and outside mutually dependent? So Nair is by this activity he is making make us understanding the point of view that outsider context we have to take to understand the inside context. Then post-structural is believing into the no binary opposition. If we take an example of contemporary time, that in social media, if we that is private and private and public. So if there is a photograph and you are that is private of your photo, you are having in your gallery, that is private, and as soon as you put into your social media account, it will be public. So that is no binary opposition nowadays, that post-structuralism is claiming. Speech and writing are complementary. As you know, structuralism was believing in one or denying for another. So now post-structuralism is giving the importance to both the complementary, that is speech and writing. So these are my work citation. Thank you.